everyone. I'm Hemant Kumar. Hope all are doing well and are safe in your home. So today me and my teammates are here with a beautiful concept in a file structures called file system in Windows operating system. So what is file system? What are its types? And what are their functions? Will be dealt very soon in this video. So stay tuned and get settled. So let's get started. Before getting started, let's see our agenda of the day. So in today's video, we'll be introducing you to a file system, what does file system means and etc. Secondly, we'll be introducing you what are the functions of a file system, followed by file system and operating system. And last but not the least, the very important one, it's types of file system. So what is file system? So let me read out a point, the first point to you people. Like file system is a method of storing and organizing the files and data they contain to make it easy to access them. So I'll really keep it very short and simple. Guys, file system is nothing but it's, you know, it's a method of storing. Like you'll be having data in your gadgets, right? So datas here are nothing but a file. Okay, so all the data which you have in your gadget will be stored, and after storing them, obviously everybody will be organizing them to ease to the easiness of the accessing. Okay, like you can access the files, whatever the kind of files might be, you can access it them very smoothly and flexibly once you organize them. So yeah, it is just file system is nothing but a system which contains the data, or that is nothing but a file. So this storing and organizing it is simply called file system, right? So that was the first point regarding file system. Coming to the next point, I'll read out it. Any place that a PC or a gadget stores data is employing the use of some file system. Consider that you have taken a new gadget, okay? Like for example, it might be PC or a mobile, okay? So once you once you bought a new gadget, obviously you'll start using it, followed by you'll start loading it by files such as movies, your textbooks of your present semester, whatever it might be. So once you store data into them, that data will be employing the use of file system. Here, file system will be containing all the things, all the steps, that is files you will be storing it will be employed by file system. So that was regarding second point. And the next point is, okay, this point actually everybody will be knowing this point because this is very simple and easy one. These structures, that is file system, typically include directories and files. So all the DevOps over there, all the programmers over there, etc. People will be knowing what are directories and files. So let's not get deep into it, but yeah, for a newbie over there, I would like to explain what are these actually. So files. Files are nothing but, as informed earlier, files are nothing but the data you store in your gadget. It's as simple as that. So that's all about this file. So coming to the directories, directories are nothing but it's a path. It's a path to our files, what you store in your gadgets. That is what called is a directories. Okay. So that was a brief introduction regarding file system. So once you have seen this, what is file system is, then next you should know what are the functions of the file system also. So let's move on to the next slide, which is functions of a file system. So I have mentioned three of the functions over here, but one of the prime function of the file system I've not mentioned here is one that is nothing but one of the best and the prime file function of a file system is storing the files. That is a prime which is set as default, which is considered as a default function, which where all the people will be knowing it. So I would like to repeat it again, like one of the best and the prime functions of a file system is storing a data or storing a file in a gadget. So that was a first reason function. So coming to the next point, tracking allotted and free space. So no concept is understood better without an example. So let me take an example. So consider a gadget you've bought. Okay, so once you start using that gadget, obviously I mentioned earlier, you'll be loading stuffs into it, right? So you people might have observed, right? Like when you'll be using your mobile phones, gadget, etc., you'll be getting notified like, dude, you're running out of space. So delete few stuffs. So who do you think will notify that message to you? It's nothing but a file system, It will be always tracking our memory or a space which we have. So this is the first function. It tracks the allotted and free space. Coming to the next point, it maintains directories and file names. Yeah, this is also one of the very important thing. Once you load stuffs into your gadget, you have to name them, right? If you won't name it also, then your gadget will name it by default, right? So maintaining these files is also one of the function, like wherein you'll be having, for example, you consider you'll be having a series of movies or a web series, whatever, and you'll be having your textbooks of your semester. So you'll be naming them, right, as a path. Like once you know the path, you can get into that. So you'll be maintaining these different directories here. As said earlier, once you'll be maintaining your textbook, which will be never opened. So the another will be the movies, which will be always will be in the using will be using it frequently. So yeah, this was about maintaining directories and file names. Coming to the next point, it tracks where each and every file that have been loaded, it tracks physically. That is the file which is stored on a disk. It tracks the file which is stored on a disk, like hard disk or whatever. So it will be always keeping the track on what file is uploaded and where it is uploaded. So these are few functions and prime function which are very important to keep it in the mind. So this was about the functions of file system. So what do you think is the relationship between a file system and operating system? So that will be dealt now. So yeah, file system and operating system. So I'll read out the first point for you, which is operating systems provide a file system. As a file system is an integral part of any modern operating system. So a programmer or a DevOps or a newbie, whatever, he cannot imagine the system without file system. So file system is a very important thing in an operating system. So because it stores the data, it stores the file, it creates directories for you by default, it creates their own file. So it is important for an operating system to work on with. Okay, so moving to the next point, Windows operating system supports FAT, NTFS and REFS file system. So these are the types of file system that we'll be dealing with in the future video. Like, yeah, these are the types of file system. This part I'm not going to consider it very strongly or firmly. This part will be dealt very soon in this video. Directly moving to the next point, all operating systems provide a user interface like command line. You'll be knowing it, right? So all the operating system you might have used, Unix operating system, or the present one Windows or a Linux, whatever you'll be using, you'll be having command line, that is CLI, in common in all the operating systems. And also file browser. So you'll be noticing something, some symbol at the bottom of your gadget or a PC, right? Wherein you can search your files, anything, whatever you want, your application, your data, whatever. So all operating system also do provide file browser to access and manage file system information. So yeah, that was the relationship between file system and operating system. So as mentioned earlier, what is FAT, NTS, sorry, NTFS and REFS? What are all these, and what do you think are the types of file system will be dealt by my teammates? So Ashwin, over to you.
Thank you, Hemant. There are three types of file systems. They are FAT file system, NTFS file system, and REFS file system. Now let's consider the first type of file system, FAT. FAT stands for File Allocation Table. Uh, FAT is a file system that was created by Microsoft in 1977. The files allocation table is used by the operating system to locate files on a disk. Now, it is one of the simplest file system types which has been around since the 1980s. The FAT file system was initially developed for DOS operating system. It was later used and supported by all versions of Windows. All versions of Windows still support FAT file systems, although it may be not popular. It was an evolution of Microsoft's earlier operating system, MS-DOS, and was the predominant file system in Windows versions like 95, 98, ME, etc. FAT had various versions like FAT12, FAT16, and FAT32. Here the numbers 12, 16, 32 states the bit entries, that is the number of bits in the table. Next, the presentation will be continued by Nikhil.
Thank you, Ashwin. Moving on to the next type of file system, which is NTFS. NTFS stands for New Technology File System. NTFS is the new drive format. It is introduced by Microsoft Windows NT in the year 1993. Operating system in 1993. NTFS is currently the most common file system for the end user computers based on Windows, and it has a number of advantages over the previous file that was explained by Ashwin, that is FAT. Most operating system of Windows Server line use this format, use this NTFS format. Hemant, next. Hemant, next slide. NTFL, New Technology File System, is introduced by Microsoft with Windows NT, and it is supported by subsequent versions of Windows, such as Windows 2000, Windows XP, Windows Server 2003, Windows Server 2008, and Windows Vista also use NTFS. As I mentioned earlier, it has a number of advantages for the FAT file system. Mainly because of security reasons, that is ACL. Now, what is ACL? ACL is a access control list. It is a list of permissions associated with an object. ACL specifies which users or system processes are granted access to objects, as well as what operations are allowed on given objects. NTFS allows ACL based permission control, which was the most important feature missing in previous FAT file system. moving on to the last point, NTFS has several improvements over FAT, such as security, access control list, and file system journaling. Uh, I mentioned access control list and I explained it in the previous point. Now let us consider the file system journaling. What is file system journaling? It is the file system that keeps track of changes not yet committed to the file system's main part by recording the intentions of such changes in a data structure known as journal, which is usually a circular log. This is all about that NTFS file system, and presentation will be continued by Yashas.
Now coming to type 3 is REFS. REFS stands for Resilient File System. This file system is completely different from other Windows file system. It is the latest and most advanced development of Microsoft, which has introduced in Windows 8 and even available in Windows 10. This type of file system was mainly designed to overcome the problem that had become significant over the years since NTFS was conceived, which are related to how the data storage requirements has changed. This file system is mainly organized in the form of B plus trees. REFS is designed to support extremely large data sets that are in millions of terabytes without negatively impacting performance, achieving greater scales than the prior file system. It has high tolerance to failure due to new features included into system. This file system stores significant quality of older backups in different places, providing easy file recovery unless storage space is overwritten. Now moving on to pie graph. Here is general market share survey on operating system where the OS Windows is ruling other operating system by the help of file system present, that means Windows operating system. As discussed so far, the file system of Windows operating systems such as NTFS and REFS is the main reason why Windows OS is widely used. Was the brief discussion on file system present in the Windows operating system by me and my teammates. Thank you. Hope you have learned something new in this video.